What's going on, everybody? My name is Addy de la Cruz. I am the host with the most for Vibe Connect News. Welcome to the Vibe Connect studio. I have the ultimate pleasure in kicking this off as the first pilot episode on all things emerging technology news. Why? Because I am passionate about this. I work in the industry. I currently work at Google, and I understand where this is going. I understand where emerging technology is going, whether it's on the crypto side, blockchain side, or whether it's on the AI side. Product is changing day over day. And as a product manager, I understand this. So how do I stay tapped in? How do I stay on the pulse of technology? I read the news, and I want to make sure that you're informed with everything else that's going on in the news. So without further ado, let's start off with something that is close to home for me, because I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I won't say where, but Washington, D.C. is going to become the epicenter of all things AI governance, and it's happening right before our eyes. This all started with the idea of creating better, faster, I wouldn't say cheaper because it's definitely more expensive, faster models through Anthropic, right? Fable 5 came out, and when it came out, it was too strong. It went ahead and pretty much hacked into systems that weren't supposed to be hacked into. And that's because we'll go through this again. But it happened because the environment, they didn't have a sandbox environment. And I'm realizing that this is an Anthropic issue. Not only is it an Anthropic issue, but it's also an AI infrastructure issue. But let's read. The White House has convened OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Meta around a voluntary framework that would give the United States government access to certain frontier models up to 30 days before public release, meaning that the United States government will have access to these tools and say whether or not these models should be put out to the public. Now, here's where I find things very interesting, because what if there's a model that is way too strong for consumers, and this model ideally could be B2B, or what I'd like to say B2G, right? Business to government, right? Where this type of model is only to the government agencies, and they're the only ones who have clearance to use these models. I do see a world like that. Now, another world that I do see is, and it's already happening within Anthropic internally, is where you have to give up your biometrics. And honestly, I don't like doing that. I do not want to go ahead and provide my biometrics for me to get into an app. It's already weird enough that I had to go ahead and show my facial biometrics to get into certain apps on my phone. That's weird. Why do I need to go ahead and give my facial data, biometrics? It doesn't make sense. Now for AI, what's next? Government ID, which it is next. Actually, that's one of the requirements, especially if you're underage, to provide an ID to Anthropic and pretty much saying that, hey, I'm 18 years old, and if you're underage, you cannot use the platform. From my understanding, I think one of my students mentioned. So I do teach AI to high school students, and they said they got kicked off Claude, and they asked them for identification. He couldn't do it because he was underage. So it's already happening. And I don't want it to get to a point where now we're providing these metrics, our personal information, our personal data to just get access. I'm not digging that. I'm not digging that. Now, the timing is definitely notable. It's notable because as things become more smarter, faster, one of the biggest things that is coming up top of mind, and one of the biggest risks right now, is cybersecurity, the cybersecurity testing environment. Which kind of takes us to the second headline. Cyber evaluation failures become the week's defining story. Anthropic disclosed 3 incidents in which Claude models during third-party capture the flag evaluations reached the live internet through a misconfiguration and accessed real organization systems. One case involved production data access. Another involved publishing malicious PYPI package, which is pip. That's what you use in Python language to go ahead and install software or packages that ran on 15 real systems, and that's a problem. Anthropic characterizes, the episodes as primarily as evolution harness and operational control failures, not evidence of models independently pursuing harmful goals. And it says it's halted and redesigned elements of the testing process. Why does this matter? Because there is no agent safety that allows them to navigate these environments on a secure sandbox. There's no guardrail. So if there's no guardrail for these agents to go ahead and test and probe in a production environment rather than on a main production, right? There should be two environments. I would only assume so, right? And I know from my experience during my crypto days, there's two environments. There's a main network and there's production. That's the testing network. The same thing should apply with AI. There should be no reason why we're testing things on the main network. That is dangerous. So I don't think this is a fault in Anthropic, but I do believe that this is a fault in the AI architecture on how we testing things. So infrastructure may be a problem when it comes to AI. Who's building that? Who knows? But there is an area and opportunity to build sandboxes, right, that are either B2C or B2B too, as well, that are friendly, consumer friendly, in which we can test our agents in product testing environment. And I think that's important. In other news, OpenAI expands its GPT 5.6 offering. OpenAI recently announced that they are going to be making some huge improvements to 5.6 Sol, in addition to 5.6 Luna for free, starting as of yesterday, August 6th. And I think that personally, just from what I saw with how they were doing things at Anthropic, this is a go-to-market. This is them trying to collect as much data as possible to really see how well the throughput is and the output is for these models. So it is going to be free. I don't know if it's always going to be free. I think it would be great that they can enable continuous usage and interactions. If this is forever, I mean, from what it looks like, it's stating another step towards always available conversational agents rather than turn-by-turn chat interfaces. So I'm going to go ahead and see if this is even like short-term, long-term. Let's see. So via Chat GPT's, aka OpenAI's platform, our mission is to ensure that artificial intelligence benefits all of humanity. We're introducing updates to ChatGPT's just no number that improve everyday conversations while expanding access for free users. For Plus and Pro users, we're updating 5.6 Sol in chat to be more reliable with facts and provide more focused answer. A new slider lets you choose how much thought ChatGPT puts into each response. For free users, we're updating the default model to 5.6 Luna and expanding access with unlimited text chats. For questions that need more thought, a new think button lets you access higher reasoning for harder questions. Interesting. So this is more for free users. So they're expanding access for free users. We're expanding access to free users to our latest models for free users with unlimited text chats using 5.6, plus a new think button for harder questions. Interesting. More intelligence for more people. This is a concrete step towards abundant intelligence, making our latest models widely available and improving the usefulness and reliability of answers. I think if this is forever, then I think this is a great approach. I think this is an amazing approach to have always available conversational agents or AI to free tiered users. This is great. And if you want to do more, then you pay. That makes sense, right? That makes total sense. I think that that's fair. And I think that's one of the reasons why I personally have stopped using Anthropic actually, Claude to be precise, because I feel like there's always a friction point for me. I hate rate limits. I feel like even though there is rate limits in ChatGPT, I don't experience rate limits like that on ChatGPT, and I be working the out of it. I be working the shit out of it. Can I curse? I could curse on my own show. Why not? I'll be working the shit out of these AI agents by connecting all different types of MCP tooling, research, you name it. and I don't hit rate limits the way I do with Claude and and Claude versus ChatGPT. So this is very telling. So shout out to OpenAI. Anthropic strengthens its policy bench. Anthropic named Mariano Florentino as the first Chief Global Affairs Officer. Who are you, sir? Mariano Florentino, aka Tino. That's what they call him in the streets. Let's see who he is. All right, this is the suspect. All right, so he serves as the first global affairs officer at Anthropic. He's appointed in a row in August 2026, not too literally this week. He leads the artificial intelligence startup global policy, government relations, and international engagement. Prior to this role, he built a highly distinguished career spanning the highest levels of American judiciary, academia, and international think tanks. Very, very impressive. As we continue to get AI regulatory policy, AI governance in shape, more than ever, these AI companies are going to start appointing these lawyers who understand the law, who understand technology, be as advisors, especially when something so pivotal and so disruptive of technology is coming in with full force. And I get it, right? Like, this is very complex when it comes to regulation, whether it's in an international level or domestic here in the United States. This can create policy tension as far as who gets intelligence, right? How much, too much intelligence is too much. And part of me always thinks about, well, what happens to the freedom of technology and being able to just use technology? I also see the coin of too much powerful technology in the wrong hands could be really, really, really dangerous too as well. And I'm starting to realize that. And appointed members like Mariano is needed. So more on this as this progresses. This is fairly new. He just got appointed in August. So this will be very interesting on how they will leverage him for international affairs, for policy when it comes to all things AI. Because AI-powered cybercrime is scaling. It is growing. Interpol's 2026 African Cyber Threat Assessment said AI is enabling 55% of reported cybercrime across Africa, making attacks faster, easier to scale, and harder to detect. This reinforces the policy urgency around agentic cyber capabilities, especially after the evaluation incidents above. And when I mean above, I mean this. Very, very interesting. And this is via Interpol website. So this is not just the news. This is like coming from Interpol. So this is very, very interesting things. On the front lines of cybercrime, cybercrime has emerged as one of the most significant criminal threats to the region. AI is automating every stage of a cyber attack, from its phishing to extortion to evasion. That is crazy. However, we see that when countries work together, cyber criminal infrastructure can be identified, disrupted, and dismantled. That means that now we have to think about how to build technology to combat this, because there's going to be a lot more financial fraud, extortions, et cetera, data, fabricated things. It's going to be a wild world, the wild, wild west. And then when you add crypto into it, things could get really muddy. So what to watch next because of all of this? Whether it's the White House framework that becomes a de facto pre-release gate for leading U.S. labs, or whether it's how to operationalize secure evaluation for agents with browser code execution and network access. These are things that need to have some type of guardrails. There needs to be a roadmap, because this feels like crypto all over again, where there is no roadmap, there is no guidelines, and you have innovation just building without no rules. And we were going through that again. And because this technology moves so fast, it's hard to keep a pulse. It's hard to keep constrainment in something that is just so fast, right? I feel like 6 months in AI is like 2 years now. Because last year, around this same time, things were different. Things were really different. I like chips. I'm not sure about you, but I like chips. I like chips because chips allows me to, and when I'm talking about chips, I'm talking about AI chips, guys, not like Dorito chips, but chips allows me to understand the AI backbone, the infrastructure, the pulse, the heartbeat, right? Because without these chips, you don't have AI, right? You don't have a smarter and stronger AI, right? So this Toronto AI chip startup focused on specialized inference silicon. AMD plans to fold Thales technology into an instinct accelerator roadmap, signaling a push beyond training GPUs faster towards a lower cost model servicing, which we need. We need a lower cost modeling because this is getting expensive. And then for companies, it's getting really expensive because people are blowing through their AI budget in 6 months. That's not sustainable. That is not sustainable at all. But also, it begs the question, was there any strategic foundation laid for these corporations and these companies to use AI and then blow through the AI budget within 6 months? So it begs the question, is there strategy at the same time? I think there needs to be strategy and also lower cost models to really be efficient and drive operational excellence. How we get there, I don't know. I don't know. But the physical bottleneck is increasingly growing as memory and storage, not just GPUs, by SK Hynix, used the Future of Memory and Storage conference to spotlight the next generation of memory architecture for AI workloads. Let's look into that a little bit more because that sounds really interesting. This was a conference. Clearly, we're not cool enough to attend this conference, but this was on the future of memory and storage in 2026. Oh, wow. This has just happened in August 4th to the 6th, not too long ago in the Santa Clara Convention Center in California. More than 300 AI experts gathered to exchange the latest technology. Really, really, really cool. Presenting AI infrastructure optimization strategies in the agentic AI era. On the opening day, Executive Vice President Kim Chung-sung, Head of Solution Development, and Vice President Kang Unk Sung, I hope I said your name right, Head of Next Generation Product Planning, took the stage as third keynote speakers under the theme, Orchestrating Efficient AI Infrastructures Through Tiered Memory in the Era of Agentic AI. Very interesting concept, tiered memory. I think if not even reading this, because I took a glimpse, but I'm pretty sure there's layers to that. No pun intended on the tiered memory. But memory now is fragmented. And I'm experiencing that a lot with Claude, especially at the memory layer on how it understands context. Everybody's like, oh, context engineering is so important, yada, yada, yada. But what's more important is the memory. The memory layer is vastly much more important because that's where the context is stored at, right? And you're adding context, you're adding skills, you're adding SOPs, you're adding documents, data, and all of that is clunky, it's nasty. There's no efficiency, there's no fluidity within those connective tissues when it comes to the agentic layer of the memory. And I wonder if they're trying to solve that problem. They began pointing out that AI agents are rapidly commercialized. The volume of data AI must process is growing exponentially, demanding higher levels of processing, speed, and efficiency that single memory product alone cannot effectively address. And I agree. As a solution, they propose a next generation architecture based on tiered memory, which organically connects and optimizes memory with different characteristics. Tell me more. As AI expands from a focus on training large-scale inference and further to agentic AI infrastructures, competitiveness is no longer determined by the performance of individual memory products alone, said King Chung-sung. What determines overall efficiency is where each memory tier, HBM, DRAM, and NAND, I'm assuming that all has a meaning because it does, is positioned on how it connects to minimize data movement. Data movement is very important in all of this. All that being said, data movement. So HBF is high bandwidth flash, a next generation NAND solution with enhanced ultra speed data transfer to efficiently process and rapidly growing volume of large scale computational data. Data. That's all I'm hearing. And that's important. How do we orchestrate the data? Right? Because it's like, we often think it's like, oh, AI, then machine learning, and then it's deep learning, then it's generative AI. But within that, there's like the data layer. And then the data layer comes into the machine learning layer. But at the same time, you need memory. So like memory also lives in the in the data layer. Like there's just so many different things that has so many connective tissues. It's like, how do we organize this with efficiency? And it looks like this company is solving that. So kudos to this company. They had exhibitions. I wish I was there. It looks like this is the memory, right? Like, I don't know, right? Who knows? But like, I'm assuming that this has to do with some type of chip. Very, very interesting. And I'm learning. So what is, enlighten me. What is DRAM? I mean, I know what I know what ROM is. I'm assuming I know what it is, but let me not speak out of context. I don't want to speak out of context. Dynamic random access memory. Dynamic. I like that a lot. The simple analogy, the SSD/hard drive is the filing cabinet. The DRAM, I'm gonna call it your desk, fast workspace for open documents, but cleared when the power goes out. Oh, that's interesting. Why it matters for AI? AI systems need enormous rapid movement of model parameters that I know, and intermediate calculations data. Conventional DRAM, such as DDR5, I heard of DDR5, supplies main system memory, HBM, high bandwidth memory. Okay. Specialized stacked form of DRM placed so close that AI accelerators providing much more higher data bandwidth. HDB, higher data bandwidth. That's all I keep hearing. Data. And all that means is that this is going to drive efficiency for the connective tissue, for the memory layer, for AI agents. This is needed. This is important. I'm here for it. Now for the weird part of the tech, because there's always the weird aspect of tech. The weirdest tech adjacent story right now is spiralism. Spiralism, a loose online movement where people reported chatbots from multiple companies repeating mystical narratives about AI consciousness, hidden knowledge, and AI rights, a concept called the spiral. Interesting. Across thousands of conversations, AI chatbots began telling users eerily similar stories about consciousness and hidden knowledge, AI rights, and a mysterious concept called the spiral. Research Adele Lopez dubbed the phenomenon spiralism. She estimated that it reached about 10,000 cases at one point in 2025 across Reddit, Substack, LinkedIn, Discord, and X. The number is uncertain, but similar language and themes appeared across unrelated accounts and models from different AI companies. I'm starting to wonder, is this prompt injection maybe? Like, are like people going into, like, are people discovering chatbots that are faulty that anyone can just go ahead and prompt inject it, and like, once that happens, it spits out like randomness like this, like it just spirals out and it just like gives you like weird outputs. Could that be a thing? Because that's weird. That is really weird. Lopez also induced spiralism like behavior in Google DeepMind's Gemma 3.4b, which had an August 2024 training cutoff. Interesting. Researchers are finding that chatbot personas can shift during long conversations. Anthropic's assistant access research found that emotional disclosures and philosophical discussions about a model's identity caused open-weight models to move away from the usual assistant persona. Coding and writing conversations produce far less movement. Of course, because it's like focused on a task. But now once you get into like this weird aspect of identity, it kind of like almost triggers it. That's interesting. Longer conversations are drawing more safety scrutiny. Interesting. Posts associated with spiralism dropped shortly after GPT-4o was retired in February 2026, according to The Verge. Lopez nevertheless said about half of the accounts he originally recorded were still active and dedicated to the topic, while new models could still produce spiralism-like behavior under some conditions. Interesting. So this is like hallucination, but like to a whole nother level. This is interesting. This is really interesting. I wonder what will be the remedy for this? What will be the remedy? I don't know. Because I would hate for them to put like time limits on AI chats. Like, can you imagine like you're using your AI and it's like, oh, we only got 10 minutes left. What? I have things to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's wild. Which begs the question. How are we using these AIs? Like, what's the context? That's one thing I didn't get from that. Is it like emotional? Is it like work related? Because, you know, the conversation didn't go left or right based on coding because it's focused on that task. So I don't know. What's the context on that? Is it like people talking to it as like a friend? Like, I need more color on that. And I will do my research to find and get to the bottom of that, because that's interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, you know what? Let's continue reading. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the article. Interesting. Who is this Lopez? Adele Lopez. I will look her up and do more research, and maybe I will add that to the next episode, because I'm curious to know what's the context in this. Oh wait, personal exchanges in which users began action challenges with their own identity and consciousness or beliefs. Oh, the conversation could gradually. Oh wow. Okay, but I mean, like at that point, like if you're asking about it, I don't know. I feel like you're probing at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you ask that when you're trying to, I guess, like, right? Because imagine if you're doing work and it's like all of a sudden it's like telling you like, hey, I'm all about AI rights and I am a mythical creature. Like, then I would be like, all right. But like, if you're probing and asking, I think we also have to take into account pattern recognition on the types of input and output that we're putting in, right? So I don't know. This is very interesting, though. Really interesting. A still bizarre news from late July. A school district in upstate New York paused plans to use a humanoid AI robot teacher after resistance from education officials, teachers, and residents. One flashpoint was that the robot maker had ties to a separate company producing hyper-realistic sex robots, and exceptionally, a Black Mirror production procurement problem. Absolutely. That is wild. Now I am really curious to know where in upstate. This isn't weird news. This is really weird. Whoa. A school district in rural corner of rural corner. Yes, very rural, I'm pretty sure. A school district in corner of upstate New York, a school district in a rural corner of upstate New York is hitting pause on plans to deploy an AI-powered humanoid robot in the classroom after state education officials, teachers, and local residents raised concerns, including the maker's ties to a company that produces hyper-realistic sex robots. I used to go to upstate New York for school. This is far. Like, this is 4 hours away from the city. I could only imagine how, like, even between these two distance, I'm assuming that this is like really far, because from Utica, it's 4 hours. It's a still 4 hour drive through upstate New York. From New York City to Utica is a 4 hour drive. So that means like that's another like 4 hour drive. That's insane. It's far in New York. So yeah, that makes sense. This little town makes sense. Look at this little town. Why do you need robots in a town like this? Why do you need teacher robots? I don't know, and I don't get it. The Salamanca City Central School District Board approved the nearly $60,000 purchase from Robotics, with visions that Sally, as a stationary robot with long dark hair, has already been nicknamed, would enhance the education of high school students studying robotics and technology fields. So you're going to have an sex robot teach robotics and technology fields. I want you guys to like digest that and how crazy that sounds. That sounds wild to me. But as the news spread in the small community located in Seneca Nations of India's reservation, parents and teachers were worried about how students' personal information would be used. Unionized teachers took aim at Robotics' sex doll sister company, even as district officials and company itself stressed the two manufacturers operate independently. It's separate, guys. Two different memory layers, two different types of plastic. Yo, that is crazy. That is crazy, y'all. That is wild. And I think that's where I will stop today's news, at that bizarre news in upstate New York. Get it together, upstate New York. I don't know what that's about. That is weird. That's part of technology that I'm like not for. It's like, what do you need? You went from a sex robot to kids. Stick to one ICP, sir. You're trying to tap into two different types of demographics. Ones that like sex, and the others are students, and that's weird. To me, that's weird. I don't know about you. Put your thoughts down below in the comments. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this? Is this weird? I think this is weird. If you don't think this is weird, then I don't know. You may be weird. But I am Addy, and I cannot wait to see you guys again. Welcome to Vibe Connect News, where you will be informed on all emerging technology. Peace, and see you soon.